During quarantine, I started selling my used unwanted clothing online, and boy has it been a journey. I have my own process for doing it now. I've picked up a lot of tips and tricks, and I've just generally learned a lot throughout the process of basically just running my own small business. It's been a really fun and rewarding side hustle, especially because I love fashion and clothing, and also I've had a good amount of free time on my hands, and this has been a really great way to kind of get rid of all the clutter in my closet, but also make a little extra cash. And I've also discovered that selling clothes requires a good amount of skills because you have to interact with customers, you have to keep track of inventory, you kind of have to be on top of it and make sure you ship out orders in time. So this is a great opportunity to kind of flex those small business skills. There's a lot to talk about, so I'm gonna split this into my process for selling clothes and some information about the platforms that I tried and the platform that I personally use, and then some general just tips and tricks that I picked up along the way. Let's start with the process, where you go from piles of clothes that you don't want to sales and shipping out orders and hopefully making your customers happy. The first step is to find a source of clothing. And obviously the best place to start with this is your own closet. We all have clothes that aren't our style anymore, or we don't reach for because they're just a little bit too small, or just stuff that we're tired of. And of course you can also explore your parents' closets, your siblings, your friends, whoever's willing to do a closet clean out and let you take the stuff that they want to get rid of. Something else you can do is go to thrift stores and do resell. So for example, at a Goodwill you can get a shirt for $5, a pair of jeans for $6, a dress for like $7. Well, you can find an item at a thrift store and be like, I know that this particular type of shirt is in style right now, and I know that a lot of people really like this brand, and so I can definitely sell this at a higher price than what I'm paying for it. And of course this takes some trial and error and knowledge about what exactly people are into at the moment, but there are a lot of timeless and high quality brands that you can never really go wrong with. For example, Tommy Hilfiger, Polo Ralph Lauren, Calvin Klein, just to name a few. And something else that I have been able to do in quarantine a lot is find people trying to get rid of their clothing and take it off of their hands. So I have an alert set up on Facebook Marketplace. They'll alert me with a new listing with the keywords that I've chosen. So the keywords I've chosen are free clothing, and basically people will post a photo of like 2 trash bags full of clothes and be like, I'm trying to get rid of this, and whoever comes and picks it up first, it's all theirs. So this requires you to be online a lot, but I've done this quite a few times now, and I have made a lot of money off of other people's clothing. Of course, when you go through stuff that people don't want, not all of it is sellable. Some of it is really worn out or just outdated and just not really desirable to a consumer, but chances are you'll find at least a couple of pieces that are worth selling. And because you literally didn't pay for it, it's all profit. There are a lot of people also on like Facebook Marketplace that sell bulk clothing for resellers. So you can pay like $300 for like 100 or 200 pieces, and you make a little less money that way, but chances are if they're actually making you pay for a large amount of clothing, that it's going to be more high quality clothing, like better brands, and some of the stuff is even new. That is also an option. 2 is to sort the clothes and inspect it. I usually organize them by shirts, dresses, pants, shorts, skirts, just so it's all easier to keep track of, because I find myself with like 200 or over 150 pieces. What you want to do is inspect the clothing. This is important because you want to be aware of any flaws or defects or signs of wear or holes that you find, so that you can be transparent about them to the consumer, because people are going to want to know exactly what they're buying. So just take your time and really look at every single piece of clothing, every nook and cranny, and just make sure you make a note of any holes or stains or anything like that that you can find. 3 is to fix and flip the clothing. So if you found any holes, you can sew them up. If you don't know how to sew, you can ask your mom, or just get a basic sewing kit and go learn on YouTube. If there's any stains, you can try to get them out. If there's any pilling on an item, you can use a fabric shaver. I have one that I got off of Amazon that I love and I'm a little bit obsessed with. If you don't know what a fabric shaver is, basically it's this like electronic device, and it has blades that kind of spin, and you can use it to get little lint balls off of your clothes. And I think it was only like $10-15 if that's something that you want to invest in. I got mine because I was selling a lot of clothes at the time, and I found that it came in very handy because it can make a piece of clothing look almost brand new. It's crazy. It works better for certain type of fabrics than others, but overall, highly recommend getting a fabric shaver. Another thing you could do if you're a little bit more proficient with a sewing machine is to flip the clothing. What's really trendy right now, for example, is taking a polo shirt and cropping it, and usually it looks a little more professional if it's not a raw hem, or if something fits awkwardly, for example, you can take in the waist so that it looks a little bit more flattering. Of course, not everyone has the skill set to do that, but if you have the ability to take an undesirable piece of clothing and turn it into something desirable, then that's something that you can definitely capitalize off of. And the last thing you're definitely going to want to do is iron out the clothes for the next step, which is 4, to photograph. I think the key to running a more professional looking used clothing business is to just have good quality, well lit photos. The goal is to make these clothes look as flattering as possible, which is why ironing is so important, just because if it's a wrinkled mess, it's not gonna look good to people. Lighting is also super important. So I recommend using natural light. So for example, taking pictures of clothes next to a big window when there's a lot of light going through. I don't recommend using lamps and stuff because it'll make the photograph look like really orange and gross. Definitely try to avoid any harsh shadows. You're going for soft, diffused light. Daylight and windows are definitely your best friend. Quality is also super important. I just use my phone.
So here's a time lapse of me taking photos of some clothes. You can't see it in the shot, but there's a huge window behind me with a bunch of natural light. I find that if you use good natural lighting and make sure all your photos are in focus, then the camera on your phone is more than adequate for taking photos of clothing. Not to mention when you're listing, it is very convenient to just upload the photos off of your phone.
The last part of photographing is choosing angles and making sure that you have detailed pictures. So usually I put the piece of clothing on a hanger and take a picture of the front and then take a picture of the back and then do like closer photos. So if like the piece of item has like a graphic in the middle, you'll take a close-up of the graphic, or if there's like a lacy detail on the sleeves, just take a picture of that. Some clothes I just put on the floor and photograph overhead because some things just don't look good on a hanger, and of course like pants and skirts and stuff, I just photograph it on the floor. And of course you're gonna do the front and the back, and if there's any holes or stains that you couldn't get out, definitely take a detail shot of those so that people kind of know how big it is, what it looks like. Another thing that's really useful is taking a photo of the item on an actual human being. Now this is iffy for a number of reasons. One, people can be really gross and creepy about it, which I'll talk about later. And also a lot of people don't have the ability to model their clothing, but you can get like a mannequin and that's a great alternative to that. Like I said, I don't personally take photos of myself wearing stuff just because I have a bad experience with that. And generally when people ask for photos of somebody wearing it, it's not usually with good intentions. But if you're on a platform where a lot of people do that and you're comfortable with that, then by all means it'll probably help you sell the item faster.
Now I'm going to talk about what I think is probably the coolest trick in this entire video. I've never seen anyone use it or talk about it, so here we go. You download the Google app, and within the app there is a feature called Google Lens. It takes photos that you have and it tries to find similar images. Sometimes this works well and sometimes it doesn't, but what we're going to try to do is take the photos that you took of your clothing item and try to find other photos of the same item. This could be from other sellers, or it could be from the brand or retailer itself. So those will be more like professional studio modeling photos versus other sellers will be doing essentially what you're doing and just taking their own photos at home. Either way, it's very useful so you can have additional photos, whether they are professional or just different angles and different lighting from a different person. The other nice thing is that you can gauge prices, so you can look at other sellers and see what they are charging for the exact same item. Of course, everyone has different conditions for their clothing item, but it is just a good basis to look at. So you click this little icon next to the microphone icon on the search bar and it'll open up the camera, and you can upload a photo using the button on the bottom left, or you can just point the camera directly at the clothing item. I'm going to use the camera roll and I'm going to choose this dress, and now here's a bunch of photos of the exact same dress from different sellers, and there's a bunch of different pictures I can steal. You can see there's eBay, there's thredup, there's Walmart. There is a large range of prices. I see prices as low as $5 but as high as $30, so I decided to price it in the middle at $12. But yeah, this is a great way to get some extra photos and gauge prices and even steal other people's descriptions.
5 is descriptions. So when you post an item, obviously you're gonna put the brand, the size, what kind of article of clothing it is, but there's also usually a description box to put whatever kind of information that you would like. And you can get really fancy with this. I've seen a lot of people really sell their clothing like, this is a beautiful summer piece with gorgeous fabric and blah 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 blah. Usually what I put is, this item has only been worn once or twice, or letting them know there's no flaws or defects, or the fabric is super soft, or sometimes I just take the tag and just copy what the material is, so it'll be like 100% cotton or like 5% spandex, and this is of course where you'll know if there's any signs of wear, stains, holes, etc. Another thing that you can include that's really useful to people is measurements. So for example, taking a waist measurement, an inseam measurement. A lot of people will ask for that kind of stuff. I personally don't because it's a lot of work, but I know that a lot of sellers make that effort and it pays off because, you know, it can be a size medium, but that means a lot of different things to different brands. And once you get to this stage, it's around the time where you need to have a good idea of how much an item weighs, because you're going to need to know this for calculating shipping fees and such. 6 is to actually list the items, taking the photos you have and taking the descriptions you wrote, uploading all of them, making titles that sound appealing, and getting it all up for the world to see and purchase. This is something that's often time consuming depending on how many articles of clothing that you are trying to sell, but if you're not a big fan of tedious tasks, it's probably not going to be super fun for you, I'm going to be honest. But it is really fun when you look at the stats and you see how many people have viewed an item, liked it, and ask you questions about it. That's fun, at least. 7 is to respond to people. Inevitably, people are going to ask questions about the clothing, even if you've already said it in the description and taken a photo of it. This is where like customer service comes in, right? Like you have to be nice to people, but also really willing and eager to answer their stupid or maybe not stupid questions. And of course, just be knowledgeable about the products you're selling. And 8 is to fulfill your orders. So once you actually sell something, yay, you made money. And now you have to package it all up and ship it off to its new home. Packing materials can surprisingly be really expensive. What my family does is we have a bunch of boxes and like Amazon Prime padded envelopes that we save up. I also have a lot of manila folders just from my school days, which are really good for fitting like small items like bathing suits, crop tops, and stuff in there. The most important part of fulfilling orders is just doing them in a timely manner. I do it as soon as possible and get it shipped out as quickly as possible. The day and age we live in, you know, where everyone has Amazon Prime, when you order something, you want it at your doorstep like yesterday, right? People will generally be happier if things arrive faster. Let's talk about platforms now. Right off the bat, I sell on Facebook Marketplace. It is the platform that has worked the best for me. It's the platform that I started with and I still use. I'm a big fan of Facebook Marketplace. It has its pros and cons, like everything else. Pros: shipping weights are a range. I don't weigh anything. I can usually look at a piece of clothing and be like, that's less than a pound, that's like half a pound. Facebook Marketplace has ranges of weights. So like for this range of weights, it'll be $3. For this range, $5. This range, $8, etc. And so I don't have to do the really menial, annoying task of taking everything and weighing it. So I really appreciate that about Facebook Marketplace. Second pro: low fees. A lot of other platforms take 20% or like 10%. Facebook Marketplace takes 5%. For most of last year, for most of 2020, they had 0% fees. So that means you kept 100% of the profit, which is absolutely crazy. Because even though 10%, 20% doesn't sound like a whole lot, it makes a huge difference in your profits. Because Facebook Marketplace is up and coming and a lot of people don't think of it as anything other than Craigslist, a place for you to find somebody who's selling something and talk to them directly, rather than it being an Amazon type situation where you can actually order the product through the platform and get it on your doorstep, rather than just like a place where people can find each other selling stuff. You get the idea. They've been doing a crazy amount of promotions. So in addition to the fact that there were 0% fees for most of last year, they also had a huge period of time, like a couple months, customers did not have to pay shipping fees. That was also absolutely crazy, because one of the biggest downsides of buying things online, in addition to the fact that you can't actually have the piece of item physically in front of you for you to feel and try on, is that you have to pay for shipping. So the fact that those were just completely waived for months, it made my stuff sell really fast. That's another pro, is just like the crazy promotions they're trying to do to have Facebook Marketplace be more popular in a place where people actually buy stuff. There have been so many changes to the platform ever since I've been on it. They've added so many features and it's become more user-friendly. Especially for me as a seller, there's a lot more features now and it's a lot easier for me to organize my listings and such. And they also added the feature of in stock. In the past, you had the option of only having one, so if somebody sold it, you'd have to just relist it. But now you can actually put a number for stock. Another pro: there's no returns. I'm not really sure about what the policy is on other platforms, but if you buy something on Facebook Marketplace, somebody doesn't like it, you don't have to deal with the whole return fiasco, which is just a big hassle in my opinion. You know, you bought it, it's yours, and you're keeping it. Cons. Let's talk about the cons. I used to model my own clothing and post it on Facebook Marketplace, and then I had a lot of creepy men messaging me, and I continued to have creepy men messaging me and trying to talk to me and saying very inappropriate things. It's really gross and not fun to deal with. I have reported and blocked countless people in my Facebook Marketplace lifetime. I guess if you're 18 or below, maybe don't use this platform, or if you're really sensitive to that kind of stuff. I don't know. It's like gotten better recently. I don't know why, but it has. But yeah, that's just something to be aware of. Another con is that listings become inactive after 6 weeks. How it works with listings is that you have to like renew them. You list something, it's up for a week, you have to renew it. You can renew it 6 times. So that's 6 weeks if you do it in a timely manner. After 6 weeks, you have to like completely relist it. So you have to like delete it and then take all the photos and all the information and everything and create an entirely new post, and then you start all over, right? So like it's up for a week, you have to keep renewing it. So basically every day I have made it a habit to go onto Facebook Marketplace and just look at what needs to be renewed, and I will renew all the listings, and then I will see what has become inactive, because if it's inactive, people can still search for it and stuff. People just don't see it as much. It doesn't pop up on like their Facebook Marketplace homepage and stuff like that. But yeah, it is quite annoying to relist things just because it's really time consuming, but just the pros of Facebook Marketplace far outweigh the cons for me personally. Of course, everyone's different. Everyone's selling different stuff. Everyone has different needs. Maybe it's just like the particular items that I'm selling do better on this platform. It's worked for me. I've made over $750 today in sales, and it just keeps coming. I think at the moment I have like 160-ish listings up. I sell something every couple of days at least. Let's talk about other platforms briefly. Of course, I haven't used these platforms, but I have done a fair amount of research prior to starting this whole thing. So I have things that I can speak to in terms of other platforms. If I weren't selling on Facebook Marketplace, I would probably do Instagram. Instagram obviously doesn't really have actual platform for selling, but you can make a separate account for your used clothing shop, post photos, make the caption, like the description and all the information and the price and stuff, and then you can just have people claim the item in the comments, and then you just DM them and work out shipping information, how payment is going to work and stuff like that. Because it's not an actual platform in that you don't go through Instagram for the payment and such, you keep all the money, which is nice, but you also do have to figure out your own shipping method, versus a lot of platforms have their own shipping thing going on, which is usually discounted. You can use pirateship.com for shipping, and they have like discounted shipping rates. I know a lot of people who do clothing sales use that website for buying shipping labels and such. And then obviously for payment, you can use PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, whatever you're comfortable with. The cons of Instagram is, again, that there's no actual platform in case of disputes or like problems with payment and such. So there's not really a middleman. It's just kind of you and the customer. Another con is that usually for your shop to be successful, there's kind of an expectation that your feed is aesthetic. That requires a fair bit of effort, at least. It is something that you may or may not be experienced with. Next platform, Mercari. I have tried listing things on Mercari. I don't sell anything. I did try Mercari just for the hell of trying something new and just seeing what happens, because you never know. On Mercari, I don't get a lot of views. I don't get a lot of likes, and I have never made a single sale. Of course, I haven't posted like a ton of items, but I've posted just like a couple just to try, and just haven't had any luck. Of course, this is just my personal experience. You can try all of these different platforms out and just see for yourself. And there's also a 10% chunk that Mercari takes of all the money you make on their site. 4 is Poshmark. Biggest pro of Poshmark obviously is that it is the largest market. You're gonna find the most stuff on Poshmark just because it's the most popular platform for selling clothes. The cons with Poshmark is that it's kind of a social network type thing. So if I'm not mistaken, in order to be really successful on that particular website, you kind of have to like talk to other people and be interested in their stuff, support each other or whatever. And also their fees are quite high. They take 20% of anything over $10, and anything under $10, I think they take $3.50 or something. It's the biggest market, so you're just gonna get the most eyeballs on your stuff. And if you're a buyer, then you just have the most stuff to choose from. eBay is also another platform. Obviously, I have considered selling on eBay. I haven't tried it. Their fees are 10%, which is like, not bad. I think the thing with eBay is that it's better for more niche items as opposed to just everyday wear kind of stuff. So if you have more novelty things, maybe you'll be successful on eBay. And last is thredup. I don't know. thredup just takes your clothes and gives you a little bit of what they make, but I don't think it's a super great system. I think it's just way more worth it to sell your stuff on your own as opposed to sending it to thredup. And I understand that the benefit is that they handle everything for you, like they take the photos and organize it and inspect it and everything. But I think if you're willing to put the work in and you want to like actually get the value of your clothing in your own pocket, then you should do the whole thing on your own, which I just talked about, so you should be an expert by now. Those were all the platforms I wanted to talk about. So now here are some tips that I picked up from doing this for almost a year now. First is to price higher at first, just because you want to gauge interest. And in case there's like a good amount of interest, you're gonna want to price it higher, just because the more people that are looking at an item, the higher the chances that someone's gonna be willing to pay more for it. If something is getting a lot of attention that you didn't expect, then raise the price, because you might be able to get more for it than you think. Second is to package securely. I've never had this happen to me, but it is really important that whatever you're using to package your items are sturdy and secure, because you just don't want anything to happen to it. Mail can often be handled quite roughly. It can be thrown around and dropped and such, so you just want to make sure that everything's in tip-top shape. When in doubt, just use a lot of tape and usually that works pretty well. 3 is if you have something you want to list and you like doubt anyone's gonna buy it, you should list it anyway, because I've sold some pretty crazy stuff that I was like, there's absolutely nobody that would ever want this, but then it sells. Even if it just sells for $5, if you have like 10 things that you think nobody will buy and you sell each of them for $5, like that's like a good amount of money. I remember once I sold this really ugly plain t-shirt that just said love on it, and I was like, nobody's wearing these types of shirts, but somebody bought it. You have to remember the general rule of the internet, in which if you're trying to sell something, there's gonna be somebody on this earth that is willing to pay for it. And of course, if it doesn't sell, it doesn't sell. You can just donate it to Goodwill, but just give it a shot. You might be surprised. 4 is to add little extras. I have purchased a few things from like Poshmark and such. I've seen like girls like use like really cute wrapping paper with like stickers, and they give me like scrunchies and stuff, and I'm just like, wow, I am so behind on this game, because I just literally just ship the item every single time. I don't really make an effort to make it cute or an experience or anything like that. But if you want to rise above and beyond, you can kind of do those types of things. Like I know like when you buy from like Brandy Melville, they give you stickers and stuff. If you don't want them, you can just kind of include them in someone else's order, or just like even a nice little handwritten note, just like, hey, thank you for buying this item. I hope it gives you a lot of confidence when you wear it, and happy holidays, have a good week, or whatever. Sign your name, and that kind of stuff can just make a person's day, you know? So that's something that you can do. That was my video on how to sell used clothing online. I hope it was useful. I hope that you are able to make a little bit of extra cash from selling your used clothes, and I hope that it's a fun experience for you, because I have had a really good time doing it. Good luck to you on your selling journeys, and I will see you all very soon. Bye!